So, okay, hi and welcome. Welcome back for another daily relaxing ASMR combined with knowledge. Well, today we're gonna trace. Today we are tracing some quiet patterns behind loud politics, the way societies shift whisper by whisper, and how social ideas ripple across continents. And we're gonna explore some social political facts, trendy ones, the cultural tides, the digit norms, and the gentle revolutions that shaping our world. The first modern current that I want to talk is polarization. Polarization and identity politics. This trend, societies are increasingly divided along ideological, cultural, and identity lines, and is often amplified by social media algorithms. Amplified social media by social media, political discourses becomes emotional theater instead of policy debate, tribal loyalty. Drives voting and consumer choices, like brands take political sides. The major weapon, social media and memes. Well, this trend is a common ground in United States because there in United States cultural polarization turned political into a blood sport. In Russia, because Russia is a state controlled with narratives versus independent voices. In Brazil, Lula versus Bolsonaro camps split families and social media feeds. In India, religion and nationalism woven into digital echo chambers. And in Europe, especially UK, Poland, and Hungary, identity debates over immigration and EU memberships. Next trend is the rise of digital populism. Digital populism. Digital populism. Populist leaders and movements use direct to audience communication, social media, live streams, Telegram, bypass traditional media. In this way, disinformation spreads faster than policy. Traditional journalism struggles for relevance. Governments experiment with content moderations and free speech debate versus free speech debate. this type of social trend, social political trend, can be found in Latin America, like Brazil, Argentina, in Eastern Europe, in countries like Romania, Hungary, in countries from Asia like Philippines. Well, because social media replaces mainstream opposition voices, and digital populists use meme as propaganda, and can be found as well in United States. For example, Trump's Twitter legacy still haunts political communication. Next will be economic insecurity. The new class divide. This is another modern social trend because inequality and automation reshape social hierarchies, not just rich versus poor, but secure versus precarious. Influence rise in gig work and side hustle culture. Young people delay traditional milestones like home ownership and family, and economic frustration fuels protest movements and nationalism, mostly found in United States. Stagnant wages and housing crisis shape Generation Z politics. In UK as well. In Southern Europe, Spain and Greece. Because post-crisis precarity lingers, and in China, lying flat movement as a quiet rebellion against burnout culture. Let's talk about another trend, climate politics. Well, environmental issue become a political identity. Climate activist versus climate skeptic is a modern one. For example, influence green tech become both business and ideology. Generational divide grow. Geoengineering and eco-authoritarian ideas enter mainstream debate, mostly found in Europe, in France, Germany, and Scandinavian country, because Green Party is gaining real power quick. In United States as well. In United States, climate debates tied to partisanship, and in Africa, Kenya, and South Africa. Renewable transition versus economic inequality. Next, the technopolitics and surveillance capitalism. Politics, surveillance, capitalism. Well, this trend, governments and corporations use big data, AI and surveillance tools to shape behavior. Privacy becomes a luxury, and political micro-targeting, the line between security and control, is starting to blur. Digital rights movements gain traction. This is well known in Russia because strong digital surveillance, censorship, and controlled social media environment are proof of this social trend. In China, because social credit system and AI is monitoring, and even in United States, I will trace the line on this side, because big tech lobbying and data capitalism is flourishing. Well, even in the Gulf states, UAE and Saudi Arabia, smart cities with hidden control layers. So, technopolitics, surveillance, capitalism. Next, social justice. Let's write it here. Oh, okay, no, let's write it here. Social justice is a trend, movement, and post-colonial activism that redefine public consciousness. Institutions rebrand to show inclusivity, art, film, and education shift toward representation. Woke wars and cultural fatigue sounds familiar, right? Mostly in United States, while the influence is the epicenter of racial and gender justice debates. Next, United Kingdom and France. Post-colonial identity, reckonings, and the classic status. In Latin America, in Chile, Argentina, and in North America, in Mexico, feminist indigenous rights activism are booming. And do not forget the social justice in Iran. Iran, woman life, freedom as global feminist echo. Next, global realignment. Global realignment. Is a multipolar geopolitics. United States influence wanes, China, India, and regional power rises. This is dividing the world in new trade blocs and alliances. For example, BRICS expansion. BRICS expansion. Ideological competition between democratic and authoritarian models. And here we have two main blocs, China, India, Russia, and on the other side, United States, Canada, Europe, and Middle East. Well, in Europe, internal divisions are over dependence on US autonomy, while China and India, Belt and Road, BRICS expansion, and balancing act between West and Global South. And Russia is the main pivot of BRICS expansion. Next, social trend. Post-truth and conspiracy culture. Post-truth, conspiracy culture. Well, facts are negotiable, reality is crowdsourced. The influence political narratives rely on emotion, not evidence. Satire and reality becomes indistinguishable. Mostly influence in United States, in Eastern Europe, in countries like Bulgaria, Serbia, and Romania. Anti-globalist, anti-vaccines, and eco-spheres very predominant in these countries. In Brazil and Mexico. Why? WhatsApp misinformation waves. And in Russia, of course, because in Russia we have state propaganda blending myth and reality. But besides all that, online diaspora everywhere, because digital conspiracies transcend the borders of states. Next trend is resurgence of localism. Resurgence of localism. In reaction to globalization's local identity and self-sufficiency regain appeal. Buy local, farm to table, digital sovereignty, sell local, micro-politics in small communities, sometimes with nationalist undertones. Mostly well known in Europe, in France and Italy, made local movements and anti-globalization populism. Even in United States, community farming and localism identifies as new social trend. And in Japan, revitalizing rural towns through regional culture. And the last social trend is neural cultural shift. Neural cultural shift. Burnout, irony, and detachment. Politics feels exhausting, so people cope with irony and memes. Doom scrolling replace engagement. Satirical political content from YouTube and TikTok becomes new civic education. Most influence on global urban youth, meme-driven detachment everywhere from every country, even in Western democracies. We have the doom scroll generation. Well, cultural mixes with quiet hope, activist strong humor and absurdity. We drifted across borders tonight, through voices, visions, and invisible currents in remains at constant rhythm. So take a deep breath, let the noise fade out, and remember, even the biggest shifts began with whisper. Thank you very much for joining me today, and of course, until next time. But before the end, the outro, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And of course, leave some comment below which one of these social political trends you consider the most dangerous one. And now it's time to say goodbye. Till the next time, I wish